Hello everyone, welcome back to Tea Time with Nick. Today's tea is maybe not technically tea. I bought at Souk today these little packets, the granules of tea maybe. I'm not sure really what would you technically consider it, but it's got a ginger lemon flavor, which is pretty good. Very, very gingery. It's got like a sort of ginger tang to it, which is not bad. But I wanted to make a video because my neighbor last week told me, well, I thought that he told me that his wife was pregnant. And I could see that she was pregnant. So I was like, yeah, I said Tabarakallah, which was what came to my mind. I meant to say congratulations, but Tabarakallah is probably better translated as good job. um, and he laughed and he was like, hey, yeah, thanks. Um, and he invited me to a party today at his house, which I didn't understand at the time that he was inviting me to a party. He just said that he was inviting me and to come after dusk. So around 6:30, I heard music and things going on downstairs, and I was like, "Oh, that's probably the party thing." And I messaged some people, and I was like, "Hey, what do you bring?" It's I guess they're just celebrating the fact that his wife is pregnant. And someone said to bring milk, which I now know isn't what you typically bring for this. It's actually sugar. So they make tea a lot, So during occasions like this, people bring sugar just because they're going to be making so much tea. I don't know. I brought milk. Um, they said thank you. I don't know if it was a weird thing. I thought it was weird to show up with milk, but who knows? Um, but he invites me in. He's like, "Do you want to see her?" And I'm like, "Who? What? What's going on?" And there was a baby. They had already had the baby, and I was like, "Oh, you meant when you told me that she was pregnant, that's not what you said. You said that she had given birth." And in retrospect, I wish I had been like, "Oh my God, that's so cool." But when he told me, I was like, "Yeah, I know." Um, and so I, I showed up and it was the whole family there and they were super nice, really nice people. And I was very nervous at first because I'm like, I'm nobody knows me. I'm not in the family. This is a family thing. Um, but I mean, people invite, all sorts of people. There was a lot of neighbors there and things. Um, but yeah, so traditionally the gifts that you bring, if you're ever at a Moroccan baby naming ceremony, are maybe a little blanket for the baby or some sort of clothing item, and then usually you give money in the crib somewhere, the crib equivalent, I guess. So I was texting friends what do I do? And they're like, give it money. And I was like, okay, here's a 20. Don't spend it all in one place. But so the way this works culturally is that now I understand in retrospect now. I had known this, but I didn't know I was walking into a birth party. But they have the party 7 days after the baby is born. And I'm told that this is because in the past it wasn't guaranteed that there was a lot of sudden infant death back in the day before modern medicine, and so they would wait to name the baby until 7 days after they're born. So 7 days happens, and that's when you name the baby. If it's a male, that's usually when you do the circumcision. It's a female, so they don't do that. But yeah, and then the imam comes, and there was a lot of prayers, which I kept asking. I was asking what are, specifically what are the prayers, and they were like, no, this isn't prayers, because praying for them is 5 times a day, towards Mecca, the I don't know if whoever's watching this happens to know, but I guess I'll give a brief overview that in Islam you pray 5 times a day. Usually it's supposed to be once before dawn, once I want to say between, I don't know, maybe say 8 o'clock. I don't know, like in the morning. So a lot of people will wake up, go pray, and then go back to sleep. Some people don't even pray like when you need to. Basically, you could do it up until the next prayer. So if you don't do it right when the call to prayer sounds, so during any time of the day, you'll hear a call to prayer, which is just I guess what I'd call a chant of sorts. And you'll see men go to mosques and they'll pray then. But you could pray whenever, as long as it's before the next one. And then if you miss one, you could just like make it up at the end of the day. There's rules to these things. But yeah, and then you pray 5 times a day at specific times of the day, and you there's a whole ritual that goes, like cleansing, like there's an ablution, so like cleansing your hands, and I can go into it more in a later video. But basically, they were like, no, we're not praying. They're just like saying like psalms from the Quran, like psalm equivalents. And I was like, okay, like, that doesn't really explain to me what it's specifically for. But yeah, so there was like 2 or 3 of those, and all the men were in one room and all the women were in a different room. And I'm not sure if that's like a normal, like they segregate by gender, or if it's because like all of the men were also not in the family. Like his family was like just women. So when I walked in, it was just like a house full of women, and they're all just sitting there and chatting and stuff. And I was escorted into a different room because I'm a visitor. I'm not in the family, and that's normal regardless. Like if you're ever visiting a Moroccan house, typically like the first room is going to be like where you bring visitors. So I really don't know. I've been in plenty of situations in which they're mixed groups, but never in like a formal situation like this, so I really don't know how it works, but this was my experience. So yeah, then there was conversation and things, and I was doing my best to try to talk. A lot of the people didn't really know each other, so they weren't talking all that much, and I don't do well with silence, so I'm like, how do you know the father? And he's like, I'm the imam, like I'm the priest equivalent. I'm like, oh, okay, like I've never met an imam before. And so we were sort of chatting, sort of. But yeah, and then the food came, and there's 3 courses, and the same sort of deal, like it's all in the center as the last video I talked about, and they break the bread. But in this case, it was like just meat, like so much meat. They don't. So they might slaughter a lamb. I mean, they still could if it's like a really big celebration. But this was a sort of smaller one. But before like Eid, the 2 big like festivals, they'll do like a slaughter. They didn't do that this time. It was just like chicken. The first time it was like 3 big chickens. And then the second course was like meat and prunes, or not prunes, but plums, which is actually my favorite. It's so good. And so, you do the same, like, grabbing it with the bread sort of thing. And then there was fruit at the end of it, which there always is, except there was like a big pile, and it's really fancy. Oh, the other thing that they do, and I've heard this, but I had never seen it. I had seen it one other time before, but this was like the first time that it was like very ritualistically done, I guess. That they bring a basin, and it's like a kettle with hot water, and then a basin. And in the beginning of the meal, it was just water, and you just wash your hands in it. They just bring it to you, and they just pour the water, and you just wash your hands there. And then they give you a towel, and you dry them. And then after the meal, they did it but with soap, and you do the whole thing again. It was like it's so warm, and like just feels so good because it's kind of cold. And then they did a prayer. They invited the father in. They just did like a prayer. Everyone like said, the same prayer. There was no like people saying their own individual things. It was like very much like a psalm. And then everyone stood up and was like, okay, bye. I've been told that Moroccan celebrations can go really late, and the dinner wasn't until like 10 o'clock, but I was expecting that. Actually, it was even a little bit earlier than that, it started, which was like impressive because they said it would start at 10, and it did. And that's not necessarily common here, that like, they might say, like, for example, my residency paperwork was supposed to be ready 2 Fridays ago, and it's still not. And I haven't even gone back because, like, what's the difference at this point? But looks like, yeah. But it was like I was like sitting there like, okay, like I'm tired. How am I gonna like get out of here and like not make a big deal about it? And as soon as they were done with the last prayer, it was like, okay, we're done. And I was like, oh, okay, cool, great, because I'm tired and I want to go to bed. But I wanted to do this video before, so it was a really good experience. It was not as like long and drawn out as I like weddings can go on to like 3, 4, 5 a.m. like several days long sometimes, and that just sounds very tiring. But yeah, the family was all like super sweet. One of the women was like, she came in and was chatting with me, and I went and like sat over with the women, and they just, I mean, they're a family and they're all sisters, so they know each other very well. And they just lots of energy and really, really nice and very welcoming people. And it's funny that like it doesn't matter how long I've been here or how good I speak, like people are still like, welcome to Morocco. I'm like, I've lived here for 4 months now, but thanks. So I got a lot of that. One of the women, and this is a very common question, but like someone commented on like my language ability, which is pretty good considering I've been here for a short time. And then they're like, "Are you married? Like you're not like now down yet? Like who can we get for this kid? Because I mean, at least that's the vibe I got. I would like to think, but it's very common to be asked if you're married or not. Just because like and I could do this in another video as well, but your life basically starts once you're married here, because then you can like have a house and like do all the things that like all the freedoms that children don't get. So it's like are you still a child or are you an adult yet sort of question. Which I mean, like I guess I don't take it to heart. And I don't think I get treated any differently because of it. But it was just a funny question when it came up. And it was a really good experience. It was a lot of fun. It was like, I mean, like from like 7:30 to like 10:30, so it was a decent amount of time that I was there. It was longer than I was planning on spending, but it was like my first big like cultural experience that was like in an authentic way. Like I'd lived with families before, but like it was a huge like event, and it's exciting to have been invited at all, just because ours is at so big, and like I don't necessarily feel like I'm integrating or getting involved in people's lives at all. So it was definitely a really fulfilling experience, and just like a nice little cultural I don't know, like a dichotomy. You get to see what's different and how to navigate these situations. And so I get to feel like I know more, a big piece of Moroccan culture now because of it. So it was a cool little experience. And I just wanted to update everybody on that. My next video coming out hopefully is going to be on my house. I have most of the things that I think I want, like of like the main furniture pieces in my house. So that one should be coming pretty soon. But until then, thank you for joining me for tea, and I'll see you next time.